Welcome back to another episode of Black on Purpose 365, where Black on Purpose is the purpose. Have a seat at the table. Today I got two people that are at the table, and oh my goodness, guess who we have in here today? My co-host showed up with me. Can you believe this? My man Darnell is here. My man. On top of that, I have one of my, how do I explain it? One of my, it's like family. It's like my third cousin at the cookout. We've been calling each other Dragonfly Jones for years, since like 2014. We went different directions. She now is a mother, professional, a yoga instructor, on top of everything else, Black superhero. My dog, Dragonfly Nicole Farmer.
You gonna say Jones?
What's good, Slim? How's everything?
Everything is everything,
Everything's
man.
good?
Everything is
Deep
everything.
easy? DP, you all right? You good?
No, everything's
Everything
good.
all right?
Everything's good.
How you feeling, man?
Feeling good, man. Good
You
day.
feeling all right, Donnell?
Definitely very good day for me today. So yeah,
Good,
definitely.
good. That's good. So what we're gonna do today, we're gonna talk about a couple of quick topics. We're gonna get you all's opinions, get you all's expertise about some things, and we're just gonna have a good conversation among some people since we haven't had a chance to really talk in a while, you know. So we want to talk about we're gonna talk about black books that are important and that we should all at least have in our bookshelves, or we should have on our to-do list to read. We're going to talk about the importance on stretching, what it means, and how it can add to your life. And one of the more important things we got to bring up important old Black TV shows that highlighted or uplifted the culture, or at least brought promoted the culture. So we're gonna hopefully, this won't be a last time type of thing. We'll do this if any chance that we all have can permit. But so we're gonna start out. Nicole, won't you tell me some books that that you think that would be important to have on your bookshelf?
Oh, man, jeez, man. And specifically speaking, Black authors, right?
I mean, just anything that you think that's important to to help you get over a hump, or to bring something to the awareness to something that you might, that just to help. It ain't necessarily got to be Black.
Well, it's I mean, anything for me, anything
Yeah.
Langston Hughes is absolutely pivotal.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite author.
Yeah.
Poetry is my jive, so I guess that all things Langston Hughes. Actually, books like I have what is the name of the Mickey Giovanni.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I had it for my kids, and I read it to my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of the name of the book, but yeah, it's very motivational, instrumental, and just being uplifted, and understanding, struggles that we face.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That speak more on just the culture, Black experience. But yeah,
Okay.
I'll stop there. I'll see if I can find some of the titles that I've recently kind of gone through. Don't come over here.
All right, Donnell, what you with me, man?
So I got one. I had to look back at my bookshelf, and the one I'm gonna bring up is actually it's gonna be interesting, but it's actually called Over the Edge. It's the book written by Lawrence Taylor, and in his book it kind of details his life story from his upbringing to him having success
Mm-hmm.
and dealing with the success and the turmoil in his private life. And then it detailed how nobody could really see a lot of the demons he had because he was having so much success on the field. Right. And then how that all came to a head when he stopped playing. And then how he bounced back to get back to being functional. So I feel like this book is called Over the Edge. It's by Lawrence Taylor.
That's dope. I'm gonna have to check it out. Yeah, I have to check. I hadn't even I really hadn't even heard that about that book before.
Yeah, it's a good book. It's a
That's
good
all
book
right.
because it starts from his childhood, his upbringing.
Mhm.
It wasn't. He was one of them guys that you wouldn't say he had his worst case scenario, but it wasn't good.
Yeah.
And then because he took off so early, then things got good because he's Lawrence Taylor. Imagine Lawrence Taylor in high school. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Imagine Lawrence Taylor in high school. So he took off early, and that hid all
Mm-hmm.
of his demons the entire time until his career
Gotcha.
in the NFL was over. In which case, now
Mm-hmm.
you're no longer playing, and then all this stuff you're doing off the field is no
Yeah.
longer acceptable.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
no, I think it's a good way. And you talking about books, it's this one I had on myself. I've read. I think it's a really good read. It's called
Okay.
Over the Edge,
Over
because
the edge. Okay.
that's how he played the game. That's how he lived his life, and it's like the theme of his story.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
What you
Another
got?
thing I
What?
want. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say what else? What else you got for me? Give me something else. You
The,
got
the,
something
the,
else?
the only other thing I would say you should always have is at least something that's spiritual on the bookshelf.
Mm-hmm.
Something that's going to give you some type of guidance, something that's leading you somewhere positive in a productive life. As you know, for me,
Yeah.
you already
Yeah.
know I got over the Bibles, I got
Yeah.
kids Bibles, I got
Mm-hmm.
a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of stuff. A book my mom gave me, which I think a lot of people know about, but most people have never read, is Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people know about it. They probably got a YouTube education of it or a
Yeah.
TikTok education, but it's definitely a different read if you actually read it. I think that's good to have as well on the bookshelf.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I might have to go and get that one myself. You got any other suggestions before I chime
No,
in?
I'll go back to your thing. You know what I mean? That's good. I mean, I got plenty on the bookshelf, but that's right now. That's good.
Okay.
This is what I was thinking about, James Baldwin.
James Baldwin.
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
a chance to visit a bookstore in New Orleans. That they based the whole theme of the bookstore on James Baldwin.
Yes.
Like there's a whole wall of his books. But this is a great find. Good book. The Fire Next Time.
Next time.
Yeah.
That's dope.
And when you said spiritual books,
Yeah.
people don't realize. A lot of people, I'm a yoga instructor, so a lot of people don't realize that they think that origin of yoga was from India or it's of Indian origin, but there's a lot of evidence that shows that originated in Egypt, in
Mm.
Egyptian culture. So
I didn't know that. I didn't
this
know that.
book, those postures of the gods and goddesses, it does talk about the origins in a spiritual aspect. So it's a good one
Okay.
too.
Okay. I like that. All right. I got a couple. I started out with The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkinson. Then that one is crazy because that book talks about the Great Migration. So there right before like Harriet Tubman, there was another migrate because most of the black folks started in the South. So it started in like Louisiana and Florida, Georgia, different and places like that. And it talks about that it was basically three trains that people were hopping on in the night times to get out of leaving on their own. And those based off those three trains is where your families are now. So like one train would go through Texas towards the West Coast, out towards California. You'd have a train that went up through up towards Chicago and to like Milwaukee and then over towards Detroit. Then you had another train that went up the East Coast, which would go towards North Carolina, Virginia, up through DC to Philly, up to New York. So based off of those, that's how our people got to where they got because when some of our ancestors jumped on those trains and they rode to wherever and then they started their lives. So I thought that was like hear that explanation. It made a lot of sense because I know when I look at where they're located, it's like a straight line where it goes all the way through Virginia, all the way up through Ohio, all the way up to Detroit. So it's like that explains exactly how they got to where they are. Then this one book is called The Yellow Wife. Man, when I tell you that book is so humbling. It talks about it's based out of Richmond, Virginia, and The Yellow Wife is about this pretty light-skinned woman that was a slave, but she was a slave because her mother was a slave. And from that, she was in love with a man that was like the only man on the plantation. So he had to run. He had to leave because he got forced into having sex with the slave master's wife. So from that, she was in love with this guy, but she didn't get to see him for a long time. But then she got sold to somebody else, and this dude was basically raping her and making her have his children. Crazy, I'm telling you. I was so hooked. Like that book had me so like I couldn't put it down. I read it in a short amount of time because I just could not stop because I was like, man, this is it's humbling, but it's good. Then the Power of Now. That book is just yeah. Oh yeah. The spook that sat behind the door. So the spook that sat behind the door is basically my man started out in DC, got all his knowledge, became a spy, did all of this craziness. He was a martial arts expert, all of that. Took it to Chicago and then taught the young boys how to become Black Panthers. So yeah, he basically had these little kids out here training them to be like assassins and stuff because they was already out in the streets doing this crazy stuff anyway. So he was like, if I can teach them, then they won't be doing too much. So that's without giving away the book. I thought that was pretty dope. And then this a newer book that it came highly recommended that we all should check out, and it's The Sun That Does Shine, which is from Ray Hinton, and it's about dude that's on the death row. And he explained, I guess he explains that he talks about that process. So those are some books, people that are going to be tuning in. We would appreciate if you all add in your comments, add in your selections, suggestions, comment, tell us anything else that we might want to come check out. So we appreciate that. Now we'll transition into, Nicole, can you talk to us a little bit more about the importance of stretching?
Yeah, absolutely. Oddly enough, Sean, I think my journey into stretching started with you. Sean gave me some tips on getting a good stretch routine first thing in the morning, and it completely changed my life. I mean, really, if I'm being honest. But the biggest benefits outside of improved flexibility, a good stretch routine in the morning can open your mind, improve your focus, helps reduce stress and anxiety, getting your day started with a good stretch routine. It can sometimes replace that cup of coffee for a lot of people because we get the blood flowing, improving your circulation in your body. If you work out on a regular basis, having your stretch routine, a lot of people will stretch before and then they'll do a little stretching afterwards.
Yeah.
But having a good morning and nighttime stretch, regimen can get you to the point where those strenuous workouts don't create sore muscles anymore. And that's something that I found with myself. I would run every day, and every day I would have, I would come home and I would just be sore the next day. Well, increase your water intake, your stretch routine, and within a few weeks I could run, and I was just fine. I didn't have any soreness, any pain, it was what it was.
Yeah.
Outside of that, having a good stretch routine can also eliminate some long-term ailments for a lot of people. Back issues, shoulder pain, which all is contributed to anxiety, stress, trauma. People don't realize how much trauma gets stored like in your hips. Just talking about, that type of release. When you get a good stretch in your hips, your lower back, your shoulders.
That happened to me. When I was so I used to work for this one firm, and when COVID shut everything down, I started having problems in my lower back, and I'm like, why am I like to a point where it would be some days where I couldn't even stand straight up, and I'm like, man, I don't know what this is. I went to the doctor. He said that it was a curve that had formed in the bottom of my spine. And so what they did was they had me on this regimen where I would go 3 days a week. They would stretch my lower back, and then they would put this gel on the muscles, and then they did this electric shock to my back. And then after that, they gave me this paper with different stretches to do every couple of days. And after a while, I'm thinking, man, this ain't working for me. And then out of nowhere, probably 6-8 months later, one day, I realized I didn't need to get up and stretch because I felt good. I still was stretching because it was a routine, but I didn't need it in order to just get up and go walk anywhere. So I'm like, Yeah, I
Right.
need it. And he said that what happened was that it was because my hip flexors got tight, and it was pulling on my lower back. I think that's what he said. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's amazing how targeted stretching in certain areas can
mhm,
improve your overall health
mhm,
throughout your entire body. You know, like you said, your hip flexors, you needed that movement and that release within your hip flexors to improve the pain that you were having in your back.
yeah,
You know, all of these
yeah,
joints, all of these ligaments and muscles are tied together. So when you're adding fluid movement, when you're increasing the oxygen flow to those muscles,
hmm,
it stimulates the other muscles to kind of catch
yeah,
up and do the same thing. So
yeah.
stretching absolutely can change a lot of people's lives.
How long did it take you to become an instructor? Did you have to go through a process, like get some kind of like take courses, or have
Yeah.
to? How long was that process?
You go through a certification process. So your initial certification is 200 hours. So it, depending upon how you go about getting your certification, I got mine during COVID. So it was remote. I did it virtually. And then you have to teach, a certain number of classes in order to get certified. So I mean, for me, I took my time with it. So it took me about, I'd say maybe 8 or 9 months. But, the average person, if they're just focused on doing it, then, you can get through it much quicker than that. Right now, I'm working on my 500-hour certification, which would make me a master yoga instructor.
All right.
That's the hours we can go. And then I'll transition into yoga therapy
Mm-hmm.
to become a yoga therapist and just focus on healing people, certain, specific targets of groups.
Right.
I can work with veterans, I can work with the elderly, I can work with, people with PTSD, mentally disabled, special needs. Those are,
Mm-hmm.
things that I'm passionate about focusing and being able to heal
Mm-hmm.
through yoga therapy and not necessarily focus solely on just teaching it.
Right. Right. Okay. That's super duper interesting, man. Like when I first seen that you was getting into the yoga, I felt like I was like, you know what? I remember when I used to come into Bank of America talking about stretching, and I was like, I guess somebody was paying me a little bit of attention, so appreciate it.
I told you, man. You shared a
Yeah.
wealth. I'll take it, man.
Yeah. Yes,
Feed
sir.
me the knowledge, and that will help
Right.
me. That's what it is.
All right, so now we're gonna transition, and Donnell, I need you on this one, man. Give me something good for this. So we're gonna talk about the TV shows, TV shows that were for the culture, that highlighted and was important for the culture. Old black TV shows.
I told you one of my favorites earlier today was Hanging with Mr. Cooper. I always loved that
Yeah.
show where he was
Mm-hmm.
the school teacher and
Mm-hmm.
also, the basketball guy. You hear me the
Mm.
story that I didn't even know how he made it there, but that was
Did you look
always
it
one of
up?
my.
Did you look
Now,
it
I didn't
up?
get a chance to get it
Okay.
in a half hour, but no, that's definitely one. Of course, Good Times, all the classics.
Mm-hmm.
Lovecraft Country. It ain't old, but I think a lot of people aren't hip to it.
Lovecraft
Um,
Cook. I know. I
it's
don't know.
called Lovecraft Country. Hold up, let me make sure I got it right.
Okay.
And
So.
it's with it's the basis. Yeah, Lovecraft Country. The basis of it is that there was back in the day there was an old slave master that had to make kids. You're not, so she's seen it. Love that, and a lot of people ain't hip to it. I think that's just a great one to put out there because it starts out with them being run out of diner because they were in the wrong place in the South, and yeah, it's a great show.
Yeah,
Okay.
excellent show. And one thing I love about that show, which I think turned a lot of men off, is how the arcs in pretty much every storyline where the most powerful character were women. Like the black women were the ones who are ultimately the heroes of those stories. So I love Lovecraft Country.
Something to add. Okay.
And for me, that never. You know what? Until you pointed that out, I never noticed it because the whole story is about her getting her baby out of there when the fire when he was trying to burn it down. I don't know if you can hear me, but
I can. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
yeah, because there was a scene where the slave master, had the moms carrying the baby out, running through. It's it, man. It's if you ain't seen it, it's definitely a must watch.
Okay. So that's good to know. People in the chats, in the like, comment, let us know what you would think. Do you have any others? Any other suggestions or anything for you, Nicole? Any others before I go into mine? Y'all already know what I'm gonna come out with. So I'm coming out swinging.
Well, we talk about Lovecraft Country. There was another show, Underground, that didn't
Oh my
they?
God, I love that. Yeah, I love that girl. Season 1 was the best. Season 2, I felt, but yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the stories in that were, yes, it was a slavery frame, but it wasn't your run of the mill, oh, I'm going to be down, watching this slavery show, whatever.
Yeah.
Nah, it was that, yeah, that was a good
Okay.
show. Then,
Okay.
hands down, favorite, all time favorite,
All
is
time.
Martin. There's Martin. You cannot go wrong with Martin.
Never.
No, my kids watch Martin. My kids watch Martin. My nieces and nephews grew up watching Martin. I grew up watching Martin. So yeah, that's hands down. Nino Brown episode that's it for me.
My Martin is like, for me, Martin I can watch Martin right now like I never seen it before. I laugh like it never, like it was, you know what I'm saying? So I still have, I got 4 DVDs in my, like right next to me, even though I got it on Netflix. I still
Yeah.
would rather have, that's how much I enjoy Martin. But the thing about it for me, one of my favorite episodes, or I got two characters, and obviously, yeah, Dragonfly Jones is my guy. Dragonfly Jones, he's the greatest of all time, superhero, black superhero, Dragonfly Jones. But there's another character that don't get highlighted enough. I wish that they have more episodes of Elroy Preston. Because Elroy Preston is my guy. All I want to do is to finish my song. That the people want to hear the song, I'm telling you, boy, I love me some Elroy Preston, man. I can listen to him sing that song, and Gina and Pam be so mad at him. But I tell you one that was good for me though was Living Single. But
Yeah.
the reason for Living Single was because it showed, like I didn't think about this until years later, how it showed Pam being one of the first lawyers. You know what I'm saying? Like,
You know what else I picked up on that show?
what's that?
Every one of these people on this show,
Mm.
Regine, Max,
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, Overton,
Mm-hmm.
Sinclair, Khadijah, were all living their dream in terms of
Yep.
what did for a living. Like all of them were
Right.
living their dreams. And it was like, that is so dope to
Yeah.
see successful Black people doing
Right.
what they dreamed of doing their whole lives.
That's where I was actually about to go with that. Was it like it highlighted that they all took like a gamble. They all went out and and they connected because they all was trying to do the same things.
Right.
And they were making it work. But then there was different times when it wasn't working, but they all had each other's back. They all come together. Then I remember the episode where Max had lost a job, and then she was over at the house all the time, and then they was encouraging her, and then she got back on her feet, and then Kyle, it was like watching that. Living Single was one of those for me that I feel like that's one. It's kind of overlooked, but it was a lot of messages in there that don't really get highlighted enough, and all of them was pretty significant people too. Like if you, most of them actually look the same now. My guy Overton from Cleveland too. Oh man, come on, Overton! I can't do nothing without my tool belt. My man, that's my father used to love Overton, man. My father was from Cleveland, so Overton. Ah man, yeah. And then Fresh Prince, the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. I mean, I think that's pretty much a given. Everybody rock with Fresh Prince. Just that underdog story. Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, that's true. Good point. Good point. But I think the underdog story, the kid that had a bunch of different skills, wasn't a master at nothing, but he was good. And I think, you got the uppity. I got family. It's crazy because I got some family that are like super duper hood, but then I got some family that are super duper like prestigious, look down on people, don't come around, you don't get so I could relate to that because I had a father that most of the people didn't invite to nothing because he was gonna show out. So I could relate to that. Yeah. So now we'll kind of move from that into Donnell.
Wait,
Can you
go one more show?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Finding your roots. Henry
Finding your
Louis Gates
roots.
Jr. Man, it's not just focused on, Black people, but he goes back into genealogy and he traces your roots. Go back
Mm,
the furthest he can go back. And a lot of people,
write
their
that down.
stories are just so amazing to see. One example I'll give you, Queen Latifah.
Mm,
She's always come on very regal, you know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
when he went back into her roots, you see why. Her family, they were never enslaved. They were
Mm,
always these prestigious
mm,
Black free people in this country. On her mother's side, I think anyway. I can't remember her father's side, but on her mother's side, like they were, and it showed how, yeah, circumstance is circumstance, but
mm.
sometimes it's in your genes that you
Just
are
in.
this type of regal, you have that type of presence, and it
Mm,
transitioned into who she is today. So yeah,
that's fire.
definitely a good show.
That's fire. Okay. Yeah, bet. So Darnell, this gonna be this part of it. I want to transition into you. This is going where we want to highlight, Black fathers. So I want you to maybe give us a little bit of light, share some light on just maybe something where you had to work through something, or just for the brothers out there that just might need a little bit of help. Somebody that need a little bit of inspiration, some encouragement. Just know that there's somebody else that's fighting a good fight too.
Being a father ain't easy, man. And I tell everybody this, man. Like from day one, I tell you this story, and I always tell people this because at the time when I had my first kid, I was set up probably as good as anybody could be set up. I had my mother-in-law was gonna be coming down to help me with the kids. He helped me set up the our nursery, help us set up. We had two baby showers. You know what I mean? I had a job. My wife had a job. We both had cars. We had the time off. I had to go back to work, but she had maternal time off. And when we came home, it wasn't night one. It wasn't week one. It wasn't month one. It was day one. It was
Mm-hmm.
day one. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning. They had just went to sleep. And I'm looking over at them. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. And mind you, at this moment in time, it wasn't like I really had nothing, like I said, we both had jobs, we both had cars. I was set up in a way to where I couldn't imagine for men who wasn't set up like I was set up. That's what I was saying. I couldn't imagine it. Because for me, it was day one. I don't know, I got to do this. I was so happy to get out the house and go to work the next day. I mean, I'm just going to be honest with you. I was so happy. I'm at work, like, man, I don't even know if I want to go home. But yeah, here we are, man. We celebrating 9 years of marriage. My kid, my son, daughters. It's worth it. Now, that's the one thing I would tell. Also, one thing I would tell any father, it's worth it.
It's worth it.
Because there's just certain things that you can only experience if you were there. There's just certain parts of the building block of seeing them from the learning to, and there's certain things that you need to be there for. And I think regardless of where I think one thing I would always say is like some of the best fathers out there was never about the money or the job. Some of the best fathers that ever existed were janitors.
Yeah.
Some of the best, some of the best fathers there. It was not about what it was being there, that support system, that man standing by your side, it ain't the things that most dads are worried about. It ain't about that. Some of the best dads in the world ain't make a dollar, but they was there. And I think that's the one thing that, I think every parent goes through this. I remember, I'll finish up with this. I remember when we were moving out my mother-in-law's house into an apartment. And at the time, I was like, we weren't where we wanted to be. And I remember we overdid it for Christmas. Like, I'm just honest, we overdid it for Christmas. And I remember my son was young. And he comes out, we had like one of the little roller coaster things you put down there, but it was a huge box. He comes out, we get in the morning so happy. It's a huge roller coaster and it's a box. And he goes into the box. And then that's when it clicks your, this roller coaster wasn't for him, it was for me. This roller coaster was to make me feel good. Yeah. He was good with it. And now we serving him breakfast. He got to get his waffles in the box. You know what I mean? So just putting things in perspective, understanding. I got more stories like that, but it's understanding what's for adults and what's actually for children, and being there. So I'm gonna cut it short because I could talk you off on that, but
no, I appreciate you sharing that. Because I think that's something that's one of the things that I've really been trying to highlight in this podcast is I take the time to highlight I truly respect, and again, I call black women the superheroes. I acknowledge that, you all do so much, and obviously you don't get recognized as much as y'all should, but it's somewhere along the lines because of, for whatever reason, guys don't speak up enough. So for whatever reason, it's almost like they act like that there ain't black men out here that actually are good men, that are good fathers, that take care of their kids. So I want to make sure that they at least know, because I know at least 5. I can name roll off. Most of all my friends, I'm the only one that does not have no kids. Everyone else I can name are good fathers, So I felt like that it was a part of my obligation to bring people together and share some of that positivity, as opposed to everybody always highlighting the things that might be a percentage. It ain't the main things, but that the main thing get focused on that much. So I applaud both of you all for Nicole. We already know that Dragonfly. I already know you're a great mother. You've been holding it down for a long time. I know that you done went through some different transitions, because I didn't even. The interesting part is we hadn't sat down and talked since probably like 2014. So life has changed, and you done became a whole different person. So like, can you share a little bit of that? Just how you had to change your mindset.
Kids will do that. Kids, they force you to look at yourself in the mirror. They show you the parts of you that you did not recognize, understand, even know existed. And it kind of forces you. You can either level up, you could stay the same, or you could fold. Honestly, my kids are 9 and 7 now, and they challenge me so much. Like my idea of being a parent wasn't the reality of my parenting today. I don't parent necessarily the same way that my parents did, because we don't live in that world anymore.
Right.
And I think that's
Things
something
changed.
important that people have to kind of realize, that, parenting is not there's no guide,
Right.
and you can follow, the path that you were raised up under, or you can create your own.
Mm-hmm.
You just really got to be cognizant of you're raising humans that are going to go out in this world and be something to someone,
Mm-hmm.
or to something.
Yeah.
And so, that's a heavy responsibility that
Mm-hmm.
you carry when you go into being a parent. Like I said, I went in, I'm thinking, oh, my kids, we're gonna do this, that. Like you said, you end up buying a bunch of stuff for Christmas, and they want to play with the pots and pans, and it's like, wait a minute. I could have just bought a new pot and pans set. And then you're thinking, one hand you think, oh, they're gonna love this. And it turns out no, they don't. For me, it's just learning to allow them to be them,
Mm-hmm.
while also fostering that responsible, respectful, nurturing their curiosity for learning, and understanding that every child is not the same. And because they learn differently doesn't mean that there's a right or wrong way for them. I
Yeah.
just recently
Yeah.
discovered my son has ADHD. True story. I knew something was wrong with him when he because he was, he's a special guy, extremely intelligent. My son
Yeah.
can do math like that. It's like, wait a minute, how did you even calculate this without anything? Within seconds, you
Yeah.
know the answer.
Yeah.
But he has trouble focusing. He has trouble staying still. Those are things I didn't expect as a parent, but now I'm learning, which is an ever changing cycle, how to parent him through that. What I'm saying? Without traumatizing him,
Yeah.
making him feel like
Yeah.
there's something wrong with him. You just learn differently. And we have to figure out the best way to do that. It's trial and error.
I think that's the important part, is having the patience to make sure that he doesn't lose confidence,
Right.
because he might, because I think honestly, I think something like that happened for me, was that because I learned at a different way than other people at a young age, and I moved a lot, that I wasn't encouraged to be who I am and learn how I learned. I didn't
Right.
figure that out till I got away and got into sports and then went off to college, that it was like, nah, you all right. you might just do things a little different. It's okay. So I appreciate that.
You just said something that's very pivotal too. I think that a lot of parents have to keep in mind. You said something about learning who you are. And I think a lot of parents, when you become a parent, you want your children to be what you want them to be. What you have in your mind that they should be, they supposed to be. And I think it's very important that we allow our children to be who they naturally are. One thing parenting showed me, and therapy help too, is you have to tap into that inner child because that's really who you are to the core of you.
Yeah.
That child that you were is who you really are. And that's where you find your joy, when you tap back into that person that you were from the core. And so when you can raise children to never lose sight of that, man,
it'll be all right.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah, that's dope. I appreciate that. This was good. This is something hopefully we can do this whenever you all's time permit, that we can continue. You can do these things a little bit more, because I've been pushing out these episodes, but I enjoy actually having some people on there. We can talking and learning some new stuff. So I know that people are going to be trying. They're going to be y'all don't even, man, I be getting so many messages and DMs and when the next video coming out, because I didn't put one out just recently. But I know that they're gonna be hitting me up about this one now, so I'll be letting y'all know. I'm gonna be doing more stuff, more topics. But for now, we're gonna end off on this: that Black on Purpose 365. Black on Purpose is the purpose. I have two people that came to the table. We all got a plate. We left out full. We good. Till next time. Have a good day. Later.
Good day.
All right.